Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. I'm Nadia, host from sportsbookreview.com. With us today is SPR consultant Dave Golikoff, who's here to share some insight on St. Louis Blues and their props for 2014 season. What's up, Dave? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing really well. Thank you for asking. So the St. Louis Blues decided to downgrade a net and upgrade their offense. Is that the right move?
Well, it's an interesting decision for the Blues. I mean, you take a look at what they did this offseason. They passed on Ryan Miller, who is going to make about $6 million a year with the Vancouver Canucks, and instead opted to go with Paul Stastny to upgrade their offense. When you take a look at what the Blues have done over the last few years in net in the playoffs, which is really what the main focus for this team is, success in the playoffs. We know they're a good regular season team now. None of the guys have really cut the mustard, especially Ryan Miller last year. And on top of that, the Blues offense has not performed well in the playoffs, so I think the Blues kind of felt like they're not going to lose a whole lot, if they go from Miller to Brian Elliott or Jake Allen, but they have a whole lot to gain as far as the offense goes with Paul Stastny, so I think that's why they made that move.
And is Paul Stastny the right man for the job?
Well, I think so. When you take a look at how the Blues have scored in the playoffs over the last few years, they've averaged 2.33 goals per game in the playoffs last year, 1.67 goals in the playoffs 2 years ago, and 2.22 goals per game in the postseason 3 years ago. I mean, this team is not getting wins, in the second, third round. They're not getting to that point in the playoffs because they're not scoring enough. As far as their goaltending goes, you take a look at the goaltenders. Halak didn't cut the mustard for them in net in the playoffs. Brian Elliott was a save percentage around .900, and Miller was a save percentage of around .900 as well. Disappointing last year. So the Blues felt like, look, we're not going to downgrade that much going from Miller, who didn't do much for us anyways, but Stastny can really help us out in the postseason. They saw what Stastny did with 10 points in 7 games for the Avs last year in the playoffs. They know they needed to boost their playoff scoring, and it really makes sense to add a guy like that.
What should the bettors expect from the Blues in the upcoming 2014-15 season? Well,
I think right now what you expect from the Blues is a lot more of what we've seen in the regular season. When they failed in the playoffs, it hasn't really affected their regular season success. Guys like Brian Elliott, like Halak, like Jake Allen, they've all looked good for the Blues in the regular season. So, I don't think they're going to lose a whole lot as far as goaltending goes in the regular season. And then, of course, you add Stastny now, this offense is going to get even better. The Blues, one of the reasons why they're so good defensively, they've ranked something like top 5 or top 10 with Ken Hitchcock behind the bench as far as goals allowed, is because their blue line is great. They help the goaltenders out, and they make anybody really look good back there. So really the issue for the Blues has been the offense. Stastny's going to help with their offense right off the bat. This is a team that I think was third in the NHL in goals scored last year, so he's going to help out even more. And then you take a look at the playoffs. I think this is really now a move that can potentially put this team over the top. I still think they're missing maybe one other piece, but I think they're pretty close to being the Western Conference favorite. So how do you bet this news? Well, I think essentially if you like the Blues before as far as the game-to-game game-to-game in the regular season, I think this just reinforces that. As far as the playoffs go, I think this helps them even more. I think they're now better suited to go up against teams like Los Angeles, like Chicago, that they'll have to get through in the Western Conference playoffs. So I think the Blues are a bit better. I think they're still one piece away from being worth a play on those 12-1 Stanley Cup futures, though.
Great, Dave. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. Talk to you soon.
Okay, talk to you.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Until next time, for sportsbookreview.com, I'm your host, Nadia Holtz.